Here we go. Christmas is behind us. The end of 2024 is right around the corner. So it's time to run down the best coasters I've ever ridden. This year, I rode 42 new coasters, got on 144 different coasters, and I shuffled a bunch of coasters around. I went from the East Coast, to the West Coast, to the land down under. So let's see where everyone lands when the dust settles. For the 7th time, let's do this. These are my top 50 coasters. As I run down this list, check the top corner. You'll see where this coaster ranked in my top 100 last year and how much it's moved up or down. Let's also break down my top 50 in a couple different ways, starting with manufacturer. B&M is always the king of the 51 to 100 list, and RMC dominates the top 50. They have a 3 coaster lead over B&M this year, Intamin next at 7, then it drops off. Gravity Group and Mock Rides at 3, Morgan, Gerstlauer, and Arrow all with 2. Now, location, and where California had the most coasters in my 51 to 100. Ohio clears the field here. 8 of my 50 come from the Buckeye State. Florida's second, then California's in third, and you'll find some foreign countries on here. Sweden with 2, Canada also with 2, and Australia coming in with 1. Let's see when these coasters open, and on my last video, 2000 was top dog, but that year only has 2 coasters on this list. 2016 leads with 6 coasters, and 2015 comes in second with 4. The newest coasters on this list were built in 2023 and the oldest in 1979. Let's see about inversions. Just over half my coasters on this list have none, and among coasters with inversions, those with 3 are the best represented with 7. 3 coasters on here have 7. Finally, let's break down wood versus steel, and 11 of my top 50 are wood. On my 51 to 100, that was 15 and made up 30% of that list, and 11 out of 50 is only 22%, still higher than the 17% of wooden coasters that make up my overall list. That's 117 out of 677. There was a lot of movement within the list, but not a lot of coasters dropped in or out. I only have 3 newcomers this year. Number 50, Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland. A lot of people compare this to Thunder Striker, and that's a fair comparison, but I think Behemoth brings a little more power and a better finale. Not the best hyper, but a pretty great floater airtime machine. Number 49, Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. I got to ride this at the end of last year, and it was the first time I thought it was running pretty smooth. I haven't been back since to give it another try, but that was promising. This ride is off the wall crazy, albeit short. Not my favorite RMC, but still a great ride. Number 48, Raptor at Cedar Point. I was so impressed with my ride in 2023. So smooth, so intense. This rocketed to my number 2 spot when it came to B&M inverts. And until it proves otherwise, I'll continue to love this as it enters its 4th decade of operation. Number 47, Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. In the category of world-class rides that beat your brains out, Hades is the poster child for this. I talked about Mindblower and Leviathan and Renegade, but Hades is the god of great rough coasters. So long, so unique, so much airtime, and could be a top 10 coaster if it didn't turn your brain into mush. Number 46, Steel Eel at SeaWorld San Antonio. Who would have thought that Morgan's Mini Hyper would be its finest ground-up coaster? I loved this on my first rides in 2018. In 2020, not as much. And then in 2022, it blew me away once again. So nice, I had to ride it twice. The airtime on this slams you down to your seat so hard, it's wonderfully painful. Number 45, Maverick at Cedar Point. This ride has kind of been stuck in a rut for me, and that could be seen as a good thing. It's not volatile, it doesn't vary from year to year, just kind of gives you a fun, long, whippy ride every time you get on it. I just can't love it as much as some other people seem to. Number 44, Joker at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. The RMC that gets dumped on the most. Each time I've ridden it, I can't help but love it. Unique layout, good inversions. The airtime is a bit weak, and I think that's where the hate comes from. But it's still, by far, the best ride in Northern California. Number 43, Millennium Force at Cedar Point. It got dropped after last year's ride. It just didn't have any bite. Speed, yes, that's why it's still a top 50 coaster. But you gotta do more with your elements if you want to rise up on this list. Just too many overbanks and toothless airtime hills. But the way it runs, who knows? Maybe next year it blows me away again. Number 42, Prairie Screamer at Prairie Playland. I said I wanted to put this in my top 50, and here it is. I found a spot for it. I feel like in 2024, I saw this ride as full potential. Hot day, full train, back row, and don't be fooled by its small footprint. This is a big, long ride, and basically from start to finish, it was an airtime riot. It shocked me how good it was, especially considering I've ridden it twice before. Number 41, Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Not the strongest RMC, but it's got incredible elements. That twisted first drop is one of RMC's best. The 0G roll and use of the quarry wall is awesome, and the final dive into the tunnel finale is great. Such a great moment in the back row. A bit short, it has pacing issues, but such a good RMC. Number 40, Zippin' Pippin at Bay Beach. I feel like this was Prairie Screamer just 4 years ago. Totally off the radar, hardly had any buzz around it, but absolutely blew me away. I got 2 rides in 2020, 4 more in 2021, and I haven't gotten back since. But for me, it seems like a very consistent airtime machine. Number 39, Vulture at Leesburg. Some of these coasters I only rode once or twice, but for Vulture, I have 23 laps over 2 days. Some of these rides during ERT, I had a little more airtime than you would expect, and I try not to let those rides influence my rank too much. This Intamin prefab is very one-dimensional, but constant airtime is a very good dimension to have. Number 38, Beast at Kings Island. I found a place for it in my top 100 last year, and after my 2 amazing rides this year, I brought it up 46 spots all the way to 38. It wasn't just my first night ride, which was awesome. It was how fast and smooth my day ride felt. I missed riding this in 2022 because it was going through a major retrack, and it seems like it paid off big time. Number 37, Montu at Busch Gardens Tampa. As much as I love Raptor, Montu is even better. 7 inversions, use of trenches, 1 insanely intense batwing. Just the king of inverts, and I loved it on both my trips in 2018 and 2022. Number 36, Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland. The first B&M Giga, the ride does really hold up. It's not the longest ride, but it does a good job combining speed and airtime. Goes out over the park entrance, the best ride in the park, the best ride in Canada. Just a great coaster to headline this stacked park. Number 35, Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom. I got the ride out for the first time in 4 years, and my opinion didn't change. I don't love the trains. They seem like bizarro RMC trains, but it's hard not to get stapled. The layout itself is awesome, so much sharp airtime, low to the ground turns. A ride you can marathon and never get bored. Number 34, Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. I dropped this a bit this year, even though my last ride came in 2022. This is very similar to Candemonium, and it's hard to justify why it's so much better. Both have very good first halves. Both are kinda weak in the second half. Mako has a better setting. They have the same size trains. I wasn't as impressed with it in 2022 compared to 2018, but I'm splitting hairs. I want to get back and give it another shot and see if it can rise back into my top 20. Number 33, Wildfire at Colmarden. Speaking of great first halves and weak second halves, Wildfire is the very definition of that. I got a ton of laps on this Swedish RMC last summer, and if it could just carry that speed from the first half into the second half, this is easily a top 10 coaster. Because it kinda dies, it slips all the way down to 33. Number 32, Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. I got 2 rides this year, purple this time, and it was all pretty much what I'm used to. It was my first time since 2021. As always, very smooth, absolute speed monster, and the airtime at the end was good, but maybe not as powerful as I remember. I didn't move it much, but I really can't complain. This is such an elite coaster. Number 31, TMNT Shellraiser at Nickelodeon Universe. I got to ride this a few times on opening day in 2019, but on my last 2 trips to American Dream, it was down. Apparently, it's been down for most of 2024, and I hope they can get it fixed. This is one of the most diverse rides ever. A launch, 7 inversions, the world's steepest drop. So good, just too bad it's having so many problems. Number 30, Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure. This saw a pretty good jump, up 9 spots based on my rides this year. I wasn't really feeling it in 2019 or 2021, but it came back with a vengeance in 2024. Great airtime going out, bone-crushing upward helix, and bonkers airtime finale. Nitro is definitely one of B&M's better hypers. Number 29, Helix at Leesburg. I talked about Shellraiser being diverse. This mock multi-launch is up there also. 2 launches, 7 inversions, ejector airtime, hang time, whip, a terrain setting, and a great finale. This is just a complete ride and could be higher if it had better lap bars and ran a little smoother. Number 28, Monster at Adventureland. I used to have Shellraiser over Monster as the country's best Gerstlauer, but Monster is just so good. That drop gets it all started. Those elements are so weird and I love them. It's a long ride and gives you all kinds of forces, all with a lap bar. Monster makes Iowa worth it. Number 27, Wildcat's Revenge at Hershey Park. I got my first rides last year and came back this year for 1 more. Nothing really changed. I still love the airtime and hang time moments. I still thought the second half could have been better, and still came away happy with the ride. Even if this is a mid-tier RMC, that's like saying it's a mid-tier all-star. Number 26, Cannibal at Lagoon. I got back on this monster coaster for the first time in 5 years, and as always, it delivered. It may have been rougher than I'm used to, but nothing to complain about. It still couldn't take away from that massive beyond vertical drop, all those crazy inversions, or the Helix finale. Number 25, Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City. No rides this year, just those great ones I got last year. I got a ride in the front and back, and it really does give a different experience. As you're spinning into those launches and inversions, the forces are affected by the direction you're facing, so you really have to ride in every row to get a different experience. Or you can just ride in the back every time and get whipped over the drop. Nothing wrong with that. Number 24, Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Studios Florida. Everyone's talking about this biting the dust, and if it does before I can get back on it, that may be a good thing. I can live with my amazing 2021 ride forever. I don't need another ride to spoil it. If it sticks around, when I get the Epic Universe, I'll try to get back on it, and I'll see if it can both toss me out of my seat, crush me back into it, and give me a long ride full of elite forces while I rock out to Kanye West. Number 23, Lightning Rod at Dollywood. This one hurts. It was so elite when it opened in 2016. That launch got slowed down year over year. It got rough and then got retracked. And in 2024, they finally took the launch out, put in a chain lift, and they claimed the overall speed wasn't affected, but the first half of this ride felt very slow. I rode it midday and late in the day, and both times it was the same. The second half was awesome. That makes this a top 25 ride. But all that bite from the first half is gone, and that's too bad. This dropped from number 3 in 2016 to its lowest ranking this year. Number 22, Phoenix at Knoebels. As far as Lightning Rod dropped, Phoenix rose almost as high, up 13 spots after my amazing 2024 ride. Back row, hot day, full train. Every airtime moment was so good this year. The double down had some legit ejector, and the finale was just a riot. I think this was Phoenix at its absolute best. Number 21, Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. I got another night ride, then a day ride, and happy to say, this ride is as smooth and wild as ever. It's been very consistent from my first ride in 2018 all the way through this year. That's amazing for a wooden coaster, and speaks to how well Kings Island takes care of their rides. Number 20, Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia. I made this comment about Twisted Cyclone. It's weird I didn't get to Georgia this year. I've been there every year since 2018, except for 2020, thanks COVID. But this year, no, so no ride in Goliath. I actually missed it last year also, it was broken down, but I've ridden it so many times I know what to expect. Great layout that goes outside the park, amazing negatives, strong positives, and one of the best airtime finales anywhere. Number 19, X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Of course, I got a ride when I came back to California in January. I had to put up with a breakdown at first, but found my way back. Now that I don't live there anymore, I gotta make sure I get my rides on X2. You're just not gonna find anything like this anywhere except Japan and China. This whoops you up pretty good, especially in the back row in the wing seat. But like I say, it's all part of the X2 experience. Number 18, Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. It's been 3 years since I last rode this, and one day I hope they replace those lap bars. But for now, I'll have to settle for this amazing airtime packed layout and twister finale. And for now, it'll have to be low in my top 20 instead of in my top 5. Number 17, Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This blew me away so hard in 2022, and somehow outdid itself in 2024. I had this in my top 30, but after this year, I gotta stick it in my top 20. It's hard to rise higher than this, but this Intamin swing launch coaster does so much. It's kinda hard to explain how great this coaster is unless you get out and ride it. Number 16, Storm Chaser at Kentucky Kingdom. Another coaster I had to bump up this year. It left me a bit disappointed in 2020, but 2024 was a whole different story. That was the Storm Chaser I remember from 2018. Absolutely one of the best RMCs, not for its size and speed, but for its power. This will bruise your thighs with all that great airtime. Number 15, Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. This gets compared to Storm Chaser, and rightfully so. Barrel roll down drop, not too big, airtime based, and obviously these are very close, but I still think Twisted Timbers is slightly better. I think it's a more consistent RMC, 90% focus on airtime, but throws in some excellent variety. Number 14, Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America. 2013, 2016, 2017, 2021, 2023. Raging Bull is great every year. I loved it from the first time I rode it. I've never come off disappointed. I just park myself in the back row, get launched over that drop, and all the airtime hills to follow. It is a hyper twister, so it doesn't have a great quantity of airtime, but the quality makes up for it. Number 13, Magnum XL200 at Cedar Point. Some of you hate it, and that's fine. You can go ride something else. I could ride Magnum all day. It's not even that rough. It's just kinda jerky thanks to that aero track profiling, but it adds to the out of control feeling. Great floater in the first half, bonkers ejector to end. One of the most pure fun coasters ever. Number 12, DC Rivals Hypercoaster at Warner Bros. Movie World. The highest coaster to debut on this year's list, DC Rivals was a main reason I went to Australia this year, and it did not disappoint. It didn't blow away my expectations. I expected this to be a world-class coaster, and sure enough, it was. The middle is kinda dead, but the first half and the finale are just so good. great lap bars, so smooth. You can even ride backwards for an extra fee, and that itself is a must-do experience. If you're thinking about going to Australia, don't be afraid this won't live up to the hype. It absolutely does. Number 11, Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. No rides this year, but you talk about a consistent wooden coaster. Since that Miracle retrack in 2016, Ghost Rider has been brilliant. Smooth, but not too smooth. It feels like a wooden coaster, but doesn't hurt at all. Airtime all over the place. A second half that feels like a runaway freight train. After 26 years, it's still knocking on the door of my top 10. Number 10, Diamondback at Kings Island. I got to ride this a few times this summer, and as always, that airtime just hits right. There's so much of it, and on every hill, it's so sustained. For some reason, this is just so much better than Behemoth or Thunderstriker. This year, it did feel a bit more rough in the valleys, so I hope Kings Island can fix that, but it didn't take away from the ride. Number 9, Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic Mountain. After riding this every week when I lived there, I had to settle for just one ride this year, so I had to relish every great moment on the ride. The blue side is near perfection, so many sustained great ejector moments, and the green side is awkward goodness, the Top Gun stall being the highlight. This sometimes dueling RMC is just airtime heaven. Number 8, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. By far, the lowest this has sunk in my rankings. It went from number 1 to number 2 to number 3 to number 4, and after this year's rides, number 8. The main reason for that is the way the track runs. It can cause a headache, and in the morning I felt a bit slow. Luckily, I got an unexpected ride the next afternoon and I felt more of that power. That ride saved it from dropping out of my top 10. It's weird to see El Toro outside my top 5, but its days at the tippy top of the top tier may be over. Number 7, Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. Some RMCs are just built different, and Iron Gwazi is so aggressive. That 95-degree drop at 206 feet is the best RMC drop ever, period. And from there, you have all the great RMC elements. An Outer Bank, insane barrel roll down drop, Outer Bank wave turn, and you end with so much speed, I almost wish it had more track. Okay, not almost. I wish it had more track. We need more Iron Gwazi, not less. Number 6, Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure. I'm still riding high in my 2 laps back in 2021, the ride's official opening day. Unlike DC rivals, this did actually blow past my expectations. I love a diverse ride, and once again, here you go. 2 launches, a giant top hat, hang time, and whippy airtime moments. That legendary Mosasaurus roll, a great theming and setting. It's nearly a perfect coaster. Number 5, Voyage at Holiday World. It's been 4 years now, and when I talk about consistent rides, Voyage isn't really it. This is 18 years old, and some years it's nice and smooth, other times it hurts. I rose this all the way into my top 5 after my 2020 rides. Not even counting my trimless ride, that's not fair to rank up. But even my day ride was so smooth and so relentless. I just hope it's still running like that now. Number 4, Wicked Cyclone at Six Flags New England. Kicking off 3 RMCs over my last 4, Wicked Cyclone was my first RMC and just seems to be getting better. People say during that COVID off-season, they did something to the wheels to make it run faster, and I felt that. It has some pacing issues in that final lap, not being the tallest or fastest RMC, but unlike New Texas Giant, that last lap still delivered. That's why this is up at number 4, a place hardly anyone else would put it. Number 3, Air Force One at Fun Spot Atlanta. Getting 17 rides in one day shouldn't be that hard on a great smooth coaster, but this airtime is so intense, your legs finally hit their breaking point. That happened around ride 7, and it was thanks to that finale. I called this an all-star team of RMC elements, a compilation of their best hits, and when you put it all together, you get one of the great rides on planet Earth. Number 2, Fury 325 at Carowinds. After practicing on Leviathan, B&M hit a grand slam with their second Giga, Fury 325 in 2015. These Gigas run through their course so fast, it needs a lot of track to feel like a complete ride, and Fury understood the assignment. It's one of the world's longest coasters at 6,602 feet, staying low to start, showcasing that speed, and throwing you out of your seat to end. It's one of the most perfect rides in the country, worthy of my number 2 spot. Number 1, Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. For the 7th straight year, the winner is Steel Vengeance, and for that, I'm sorry. The worst part of Top Thrill 2 shutting down and canceling my trip to Cedar Point was it meant no rides on Steel Vengeance. It holds a record for most airtime at any coaster. It's a hyper hybrid. It has over 5,700 feet of track and 3 brilliant laps. It manages not to slow down or get repetitive. It's RMC's magnum opus when it comes to their Iron Horse conversions. I keep looking, but still I've not found a coaster that can dethrone Steel Vengeance. So there you go, another top 50 in the books. Let me know what you think of these rides, where you think I'm crazy or spot on, and what coasters land in your own personal top 10, or if you're feeling ambitious, your own top 50. If you missed number 151, click the card in my end screen. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. Also, check out my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.